Okay, we're at the almost 2 minutes past the hour mark, so I want to thank everyone for joining us for this month's IIIF community call. Today we have Sarah and Ben Brumfield who'll be talking about some of the interesting new developments that they're working on at From the Page and other activities they're involved with. I just want to remind everyone that even though this is a virtual meeting, we will be subject to the IIIF Code of Conduct, which you can find on the website. So again, we look forward to participating in this. Do put questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat during the call. And I should have introduced myself. I'm Martin Kalfatovic. I'm the Managing Director for the IIIF Consortium. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Sarah and Ben.
Great. Thanks, Martin. So if you don't know us, Ben and I run From the Page. It's a crowdsourced transcription platform that is used by libraries and archives, special collections, ranging from house museums to the National Archives of the UK and Sweden, yes, as well as a lot of like state archives in the US and Australia and university archives all over there, just different types of archives and special collections. We've been involved in the IIIF community for a decade now. I actually just went and looked, and it's been a decade, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. One of the things that we love about IIIF is all the conversations that we get to have, and even what we ended up developing and that we're going to talk about today was heavily influenced by conversations we had with members of the IIIF community. So because of that, like, we have lots of material. We can talk on our own for a very long time. But if you have questions or comments or experiences, really feel free to interrupt us. You're welcome to unmute, interrupt. You're welcome to put something in the chat, and Martin will be watching that.
We interrupt each other all the time.
Right. We'd love for this to be a discussion, not just kind of a presentation and demo. You want to share our slides?
Yes. So I'm going to share my screen. We have a handful of slides, and then we have a live demo and discussion, and then we have a handful of other slides if we still have time to share.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today is IIIF, Gemini 3, and what we call AI drafts for transcription and From the Page. So I already gave our background, but we have a background on kind of what we built and why we built it. So it was a Saturday morning. You can go to the next slide. And Ben, we were sitting around drinking coffee, reading fun stuff, right? And Ben sends me this newsletter, and he's like, you should probably read this. He hadn't read it, but I read it, and I was like, if you run a transcription platform like we do, something that says, oh, Google's going to release an AI model that is really, really good at historical transcription is kind of existential crisis. So I kind of freaked out for 5 minutes, and then I turned to Ben and I'm like, you know what, we should just build this in. And that's actually what we did. This was a Saturday morning. Ben built it most of Sunday.
With a little help from some AI
coding agents. We tested it with some of the older Google Gemini models.
Gemini Pro 2.5,
yeah,
right.
On Monday. And then Monday there were these rumors that Google was going to release this new model because everyone was talking about it and trying to like test it, A/B test it in AI Studio and stuff. And so Tuesday they release it. So Tuesday afternoon we deploy it. I email about 6 or 7 customers. I'm like, hey, there's this really interesting thing going on. Would you like to try it out? And about 3 or 4 of them say yes. So we start testing, running pages that we host on From the Page through Gemini 3, and then having our customers and our volunteers start playing with it and looking at it. So a lot of this presentation is how we built that, but also what we've observed and learned from that process.
Right. A lot of the documents we'll be talking about, not during the live demo part, but the things we have screenshots of are the results of those really early people who are willing to experiment at places like University of South Dakota in particular.
Yeah. They were great. Okay. Yeah. Gemini 3. It's really good. And like really, really good. This is Mark Humphreys, who's a Canadian historian and AI researcher who's been doing a lot of tests for the last couple of years using different AI models. And it's really good. That's what this basically says. This is another one. It says it's even better, and it's as good as a human. So yay. For us, it's about trustworthiness. This model does not seem to hallucinate. We are very, very concerned with AI models that produce what we use the phrase seductive plausibility, which we borrowed from Patricia Sway at the Mellon Foundation. But if you have text that is seductively plausible
And wrong.
right, it's hard to catch. And as a trusted institution, we can't, or our customers are trusted institutions, they can't introduce that into the historic record, and it would be so easy for that to happen.
So to that end, and ever since we started doing any AI experiments, starting with a lot of our transcripts integration, we've always wanted our AI functionality to be optional instead of required. We want AI results, so the use of AI, to be transparent instead of invisible, and we want the AI outputs to feel tentative instead of feeling authoritative. So that's kind of what's informing everything we're trying to build here. So to that end, I'm going to stop this, and we're going to drop into a live demo of what we actually built, if I can get the Zoom controls out of the way. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is find a piece of IIIF, right? So this is, so our friends at the Portal of Texas History have, we think, one of the coolest discovery interfaces for finding a IIIF manifest, which if you scroll down their, one of their catalog pages, right towards the bottom, you have this great reuse section that has this lovely way to cut and paste in a IIIF manifest. So I cut and paste that link in, and then I add it to a FromThePage collection. So this is just one we built for this call. Say that I want to import it. I can review all the metadata, and then say I want to import it into this. But this new little feature, generate an AI draft using Gemini, is the new thing that we built as part of this. So I can say, yes, go ahead and do that. That's going to import the manifest, and then it's going to queue up a job to go fetch Gemini transcripts for each one of these pages. Now, unfortunately, for the purposes of having a live demo, a couple days ago, the Queensland State Archives kicked off a batch of 80,000 different pages being transcribed using Gemini. Gemini takes about a minute per page, so the thing we just kicked off is going to sit in line until well past when this call is over. So we're going to jump into some of other things that we've run that don't wait in line. Yes. But before we do that, we want to talk a little bit about what that process does. So I realize we're not the only people who are going to be using AI tools to do transcription, in particular using Gemini. I know that Glenn and some other folks did a demo, a workshop of doing exactly this sort of thing during the online meeting. So we did want to share our code here. All from the page is open source, so this we can drop a link in a little later on. But what we're doing here is we're taking a prompt, we're taking a model, and we're taking an image and sending that to Gemini. So the frustrating thing to me about...
To the IIIF community.
And I think to the IIIF community is I would really love to send a Canvas ID or at least a URL to Google Gemini. And that is not the way their API works, right? What we are stuck doing is doing a base 64 encoding of the binary image. So we have to fetch it down from wherever it's being served from. In this case, it would be Portal to Texas History, encode it, and then push that all the way to Gemini in order to get responses. I'm not the first person to wish that big companies like Google would pay attention to standards that come out of the library and archives world. So, we've all heard that before, but it's unfortunate, but this is kind of the way that we have to do this at the moment. Okay, so what do we get back? So what we get back is a AI text, right? We get back a transcription because that is what we asked this to do. So
Right. So,
yeah.
we want AI to be transparent. We want you to know that you're looking at something produced by AI. So the first thing that we do is we added this third tab here that just says AI, like hopefully very clear. And that's where we're dumping and putting all of our AI related usefulness.
Right. So one of the things that we've added fairly recently is this kind of provenance saying exactly what model was used to generate this output and when it was run. So this was run, I think, this morning. And then we have an output that we can visualize. This is just straight out of Gemini. One of the interesting things about this output, if we take a look at this letter, this was apparently a folded sheet of paper, and the person, Admiral Nimitz, wrote to his wife on the front of the page, and then we've got two interior pages, and then the back of this sheet of paper. So what we're really looking at in this letter is the left-hand side is really page 4, the right-hand side is page 1. And ordinarily, any kind of OCR process is going to have a little bit of trouble with that, representing that hopefully at least as 2 blocks of text, but almost certainly we're going to end up with page 4 preceding page 1.
And even human volunteers probably would do that.
Might do that.
Depending on
the
transcription conventions
right.
and how it occurs.
And that's not what we get out of Gemini, partly because we've had to do a lot of prompt engineering, but partly because there is this capability of saying, please transcribe this text in reading order.
Which is in the prompt.
Yeah, so we get Dear Catherine, page 1, before we get, Wave of Suicides after that, which is page 4. That's pretty exciting. So one of the other things that we're getting out of this is the AI reasoning. So AI reasoning is a byproduct of the transcription process, or actually of almost any LLM process nowadays. We decided that we wanted to capture that to be able to surface it and show it. One of the things that is kind of interesting about the AI reasoning is that we get this description of how it figured out reading order, right? Single sheet folded in half, maybe a double-sided sheet. Right-hand side has a date and a salutation. Left-hand side has a valediction, so I should read the right side first. Wow, okay. Therefore, right side first, then left. So that is, that's a pretty cool output, right? To see that and be able to, I'm not going to say verify, but to be able to check that in the AI reasoning steps. Another thing that we actually just added, I believe this morning.
Did you play it this morning or last night? Yeah.
So would you like to explain?
Sure.
This?
So actually, last week we hosted a webinar. We do them every month or so with John Ippolito, who's a library school professor at University of Maine, and he has gathered a bunch of everything he can find research-wise on how expensive environmentally these types of AI queries are. And so one of the things that they do is if you know the number of tokens you use, you can start understanding how much energy something might be using. It's all kind of, there's a lot of guesswork involved, and it depends on where your data centers are and a lot of things like that. But you can also then start comparing it to other things like, watching a movie on Netflix or things like that. So after that webinar, we're like, okay, this is super cool that like if you have tokens, you can start understanding a little bit more about the environmental impact. So so we deployed this morning, which is the token usage. And we have input tokens, which includes the image and the prompt, output tokens, which includes the transcription. It turns out I missed the reasoning tokens, which is all the reasoning stuff that's coming back. And then we have total tokens. So we show that for every page. And then actually at the collection level, we kind of add them all up and just tell you how many tokens you used for the whole collection. Yeah.
Okay, great. I haven't seen that.
And then because, transparency is so important to how we're building this, we show the AI prompt that was used for this particular transcription. So we have a default AI prompt. We are trying to find and kind of fine-tune prompts that work for most cases. We have the ability to override them as well, but that's kind of a one-off thing that we have to do for people.
So this is all read-only. This is not something that we anticipate a lot of volunteers or students actually using.
Except I think they are.
I think so?
Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is how people end up using all of this is such a new territory, right?
Right. So the actual interface for using this within the transcription process. So this is our transcription screen. Ordinarily, if there were no AI, humans would just be looking at the image, transcribing what they see, and typing into this window. What we've done here is we've added this optional capability to request an AI draft. So hitting that is going to pre-populate the transcription window with with what we get out of that AI.
Same thing that's on the AI tab.
Right. And we have the ability to edit that or throw it away, right? So one of the things that we do in this case, in addition to providing this AI draft to people who are doing transcription, is that we also record the fact that they used it. We want to attach a provenance of someone used AI to everything downstream that we possibly can, right? So if I were to hit save on this, we would know, all right, somebody used this and use the AI draft feature to do this as well.
So we also stick this warning at the top. So this is part of what we're trying to insert tentativeness, which is of our three values: transparent, optional, transparent, and tentative. Tentative is the hardest one. How do you encourage people to like question the machine? It's not easy, but this is one of the ways we do it. We add this comment. And if they don't delete this comment, and they save the page, we actually log that as what we call a suspicious behavior that a project manager can look at.
Yeah. Also, if they make minimal changes or no changes to the text that was generated from AI, that's also flagged as suspicious behavior. Again, that might be fine.
Because these are really good.
These are really
Yes.
good. But we do at least want to flag that for review by someone running the project. So I'm not actually going to transcribe and correct this here, but I do want to show an example in which I have independently transcribed this page. So I transcribed this page this morning, not using AI at all. And one of the things that we can do if we have a human transcribed page or a version, right, is compare that against the human transcription.
Against the AI.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I check this box, you can see essentially a diff view with everything that Gemini produced. Everything that Gemini produced that agrees with what I typed is all in white, right? And then characters and sections are flagged with red for things that were in the AI draft that we did not keep, and green for things that we added. And in some cases you can see, I got this wrong, right? The difference between the human transcription and the AI transcription is the AI has the word they, and I have the word thegay, which is obviously a typo, so I messed that one up. We also see a handful of kind of editorial style questions, right? How many, these weird little dashes that Admiral Nimitz uses, are they M dashes? Should they be represented using 2 hyphens or 1 hyphen? How do we type those, right? The AI decided, let's do a single hyphen. I decided to do 2. Well,
and do we care? I mean, I don't know. I don't care that much.
Right.
It's still very searchable. And this is not a documentary edition.
Right. Similarly, naval hospital ship. The AI thought naval should be capitalized. It doesn't look like a capital N to me. Something that's a lot more substantially different is that the name of the ship. We have this cross through where Admiral Nimitz originally wrote Benevol, and then realized that, well, you should capital whatever his form, his style guide said that ship names need to be in all caps. Right, so he crosses through this, even though it's just a letter to his wife, and then types benevolence in all caps. Right, that's much more significant. Right?
And when you transcribed it, did you have a strike through?
I did.
Which it doesn't come through in this comparison.
No, we're just doing
but,
character by character. Right. So one of the things we can do if we have this kind of human-created ground truth is actually evaluate the character error rate and word error rate between the AI and the human, right? So if we look at everything, including white space and differences of punctuation, you can see that Gemini has about a 3.7 character error rate, which is not great, but if you normalize the case, the white space through punctuation, you can see it came out with a 1% character error rate, which, given that it got the word benevol wrong,
Just missed it completely,
right,
yeah.
that's really good, right? One of the things I would like to mention as we go through this is the AI reasoning we've found is not always right. The AI reasoning does not always match the outputs. So line 13 that I'm going to highlight here, it says, now there's a word crossed out. The instructions are preserve everything, even errors. I need to look at it. Looks like he started writing bene, maybe benevolence in cursive, then crossed it out. There's a caret above benevolence, so that's the final intended text. Transcribe everything. I should include the illegible word. I need to figure out how to render the crossed out text accurately. I'll just skip it.
So it actually is not lying.
This does represent the fact that it did the wrong thing. We have seen a lot of cases in which the reasoning says it's going to do X, and in fact the output shows it doing Y. In this case, the reasoning documents the fact that it's doing the wrong thing. Okay. So how do we expose all these things in IIIF? So we are trying to expose not just the AI outputs, but everything else, right? The tentativeness, the provenance in our IIIF manifests. So this is a from-the-page derivative manifest. It's still a presentation 2, so sorry about that. But one of the things that we're doing here is we are exposing annotations on canvases using the original Canvas IDs from the Portal to Texas History, right? So because we have these...
I would say, I'm going to interrupt and say,
Yeah.
if you uploaded images, zip files of images, we would be doing the same thing, but the ad IDs for the images would be from the page
they'd
ones.
be our local Rift server. Yeah. So if we drop this manifest into Mirador, which I did prepping for this demo, what we can see is the same letter that we were just looking at with a handful of pages, and we're exposing annotations here that include the AI annotations, right? So the AI transcription. Now, we really would love to use web annotation attributes like created by, generated by, and provide all of that provenance in a machine-readable version here. And unfortunately, we don't have any control over how Mirador behaves or how any other IIIF client is going to read our manifest, read our annotations. And Mirador does not display generated by or those other stanzas. And what we ended up doing, and this was inspired by a conversation on the IIIF Slack with Diego Pino Navarro, we ended up just brute forcing a warning into this transcript, just prepending at the top of it in bold, warning this transcript is AI generated. You cannot delete this.
Well, you can if you process your own IIIF manifest. Our IIIF manifest is an API endpoint, but yeah.
So you're going to see that on this page. You're going to see that on the combination page, the image 3 that includes pages 1 and 4 that we talked about. But for image 2 that I transcribed myself this morning, you're not going to see that because we're not using the Gemini generated transcript, right? Because annotations are really designed for human consumption by things like Mirador. We always want to privilege the human, and we're only going to use the AI transcription as a fallback if there is no human transcription of a page.
But in the manifest, they're both there.
Yes, in the manifest, they're both there.
And I mean, the other thing to kind of realize about privileging the human-generated transcript, that's two different possible things. Ben transcribed that page before he ran the Gemini 3 processing on it. But if you click that AI draft button and then you edit the AI transcription, we consider that edited version a human,
Right.
it has human review. So
Right.
it gets privileged and it doesn't get the warning.
No, it doesn't get the warning, even though you know, and we do want to track the fact that you use the AI draft, but we didn't feel like we should show the warning in those cases because a human did actually go through and look at it.
Hopefully.
Okay, so how do we actually expose these things in the manifest? So the annotations themselves, you know, we're just showing a annotation list for AI text and AI reasoning, if that is what, you know, on the canvas, if that is what we have, but that's all we have access to.
Or even if we don't, right?
No. If we also have a
Yes.
human
Yeah, that's what I
transcribe,
meant. Yeah.
and we show that as a separate annotation. We do not show AI text in those cases. However, what we do is expose that in the SeeAlso block, right? So the SeeAlso block is intended to be machine readable, and so in that case, we're exposing absolutely everything we can, right? We're exposing the plain text, and we're mentioning what model is used to generate it. We're exposing the reasoning, data with the model. We'll expose the prompt as well that was used to generate this. You know, we'd love to come up with ways to make this even more kind of machine readable, machine friendly in terms of flagging AI generated material. The closest we've been able to come to that has been on the annotations themselves. If we take a look at one of these annotations, I'm sorry, this is just the reasoning model. We take a look at an annotation that's produced by a human. You can see we've got this annotated by that lists the provenance, right? And even though Mirador doesn't show that, we do include that. If we look at the AI version of, you know, the page that was not transcribed by a human, we have a generator stanza that lists the generated date and the model as well. This is still kind of a draft, right? We would love to talk with people more about this. In fact, there's Birds of a Feather at the IIIF conference in the Netherlands that we are one of many people trying to get together to talk about how to expose and how to model these things. We definitely don't feel like we have all the answers here at all. So we'd love feedback and suggestions from the community on this. The last thing I want to show as part of the live demo is what do we do if we have multiple transcriptions that are generated by AI for the same page. So this is a page that Sarah ran 2 transcriptions on, I think with different prompts, maybe the same prompt.
I think different models actually.
Okay, so nope, same model. Okay, so we can switch between the 2 models and we can see the differences compared with the ground truth. We can't actually compare the 2 models side by side, but we can at least evaluate what their character error rates are.
And you can look at the prompts used for each one and the reasoning used in each one.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay, that is the end of you know, the live demo section of things. We'd love to open this up for discussion. We've got a lot of other slides and things that we've noticed, our observations on using this.
But we don't have to use those.
But yeah,
we're happy to have a conversation.
Open this up and yeah. Yeah, so any comments? Anybody want to tell us what we should have been doing better?
Hi, love this. I'm Derek Lomas. I'm a professor at TU Delft in the Netherlands. Looking forward to meeting you all in Leiden. I've been running similar types of investigations with a book, OCR, and manuscripts at the Embassy of the Free Mind, which is this. Well, I learned they have a Guinness Book of World Records for the largest library devoted to magic and mysticism. So, you know, it's always funny when Gemini gets caught on a particular page because, you know, I'll go and see whether there's some incantation that's preventing that sort of thing.
Oh, wow, magic. Yeah, that would be fun. And the reasoning there would be super hilarious.
Yes, well, actually, that's one thing. I have been doing this with reasoning off.
Oh.
And, you know, one of the reasons is there's this sort of these sort of cost optimization things that go like this, where at first I don't care and then I care. But I guess that's sort of the point. I've been thinking at first it was Gemini 3 Flash Preview. Oh my God, it was just incredible. And then there was Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite, and it was almost as good. And the question of quality measurement is something that you were mentioning about the comparison to the human, but the challenges there. Um, I don't have a question. We all have the same question. How do we measure this, and what are good approaches?
Yeah. We just are trying, I think we're at the point where we're just throwing all the data we can figure out so that other smarter people maybe can interpret it.
Yeah, we're not quite at the position yet of letting people edit their own prompts. One of the challenges being that there's certain affordances to our software that are, and we've got slides talking about this, that are either well suited or poorly suited by prompts that are otherwise functional. They're just not very useful, right? One of the things that we did experiment with a little bit that matches some of your discussion of reasoning is that the conventional wisdom, the things Mark Humphreys posted, said that the thinking level, that the accuracy was much better with a thinking level that was set to low rather than a high thinking level. We did not find that at all. So we have been running everything using a high thinking level. We don't understand why our results are so different from other people's, but I really, we're willing to pay for the extra thinking, given that it seems to involve better quality results.
But you also talked about the difference between Gemini 3.0 and 3.1 Flash. There's some extra words in there, but yeah, I don't like we have not experimented with Flash yet, which we should because it's cheaper. But Google made everyone move from 3.0 to 3.1, Gemini Pro Preview 3.0 to Gemini Pro Preview 3.1, and we're not as happy with 3.1. Like, it is not quite as good.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to behave itself quite as well. So,
yeah.
I think
we have a question from Glenn, and then
Yeah.
there's a couple in the chat that I can read after Glenn.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely great. But I just had a question about, have you got kind of an idea of the cost? Could you work out per page cost? Is it very expensive? Is it reasonable?
Okay, so we run a business. I'm like, we're going to make this available to anyone who wants to try it out, basically. So all of our trials are 200-page trials, and everyone can use Gemini 3 there. Once you're a paying customer, we offer it for our medium and our large subscriptions. So I have to figure out whether we could afford it in the prices that we already have, or if we were going to have to do something different. So the first time I ran all the numbers, which was right after 3.0 came out, I'm like, this is about, it runs about half to 3/4 of a cent a page. No problem. And then like 2 weeks later, I looked again and it was more like 1.5 to 1 3/4 cents a page. I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
Google had released a new, cheaper model and had just applied their cheap preview pricing that we'd been using to that model and tripled the price of the model we were actually using.
So, and this is, I think, one of the risks, right? Like, they can do this anytime they want. Or if your, code happens to queue certain pages 3 times instead of once, you're paying three times this happened this week. Then, so it's, the thing is that is so affordable. 2 cents a page, right? Yeah, we love Transcribus, and they're an order of magnitude larger.
We have a question in the chat from Mia. Is there anything you'd like viewers to handle better so that the provenance attributes could be included alongside transcriptions without a kludge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all of it. I would love for annotations to have labels that are actually presented. I'd love for the created bys and creation dates. Like, if viewers could even just handle displaying a comment thread and who created each comment, like, we could fit stuff into that. But yeah, there's not, like, there are all these great plugins that people have for making all that happen, but because we don't control the client experience at all, we can't really quite tell people use this plugin or something, right? So I would love to see more standardization and best practices, more recipes perhaps for indicating provenance that could be used with people developing viewers. Maybe we should go back into joining the cookbook
Yes.
group again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mia, do you want to follow up?
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of an obvious.
We appreciate it.
But I was wondering also if you do include those attributes, rather than have the hard-coded text, maybe in the text you could point people to the attributes in the manifest or in the annotation file, and that might be a slightly more sustainable route to actually letting people know the information's there, as well as you could combine the warning and the link to the more detailed information.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting, right? There's a project that we're working on that's going to involve pushing these transcripts into Content DM, and we're doing a similar approach there. And to our surprise, the librarian we were working with really wanted all the provenance included in the warnings as well as in the additional fields that she has access to. It's just kind of a balancing act of, how important is the warning?
And right now,
it's really important. Yeah.
In 10 years, maybe we don't care. I don't know. Or maybe there's places to put it in a way that makes sense. But none of the dams have places to put this either, right?
Yeah.
So.
Another question from the chat, and this could be a very long answer, but can you explain, this is from Alex, can you explain your process for developing how the prompts are used?
Yeah, I'm going to put that one off until we go back to some slides, because I got lots of examples there, and we'll maybe skip ahead to that.
Yes, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
And then we have from Eric in the chat, have you tackled search term highlighting within the image?
That would require having bounding boxes, right? And
in the transcripts.
In the transcripts, or having access to bounding boxes. We have not had any success getting bounding boxes out of large language models. We have been told by people who know more than we do about this that it's actually technically impossible, because large language models often don't even look at filler words, right? However, we also thought that not hallucinating was theoretically impossible, and it turns out that Google has fixed that.
And we've also heard from some people that they have gotten bounding boxes out, but I can't get them to send me examples for us to do displays with.
The people who tell us that say, well, we asked it for an alto file and it gave us a technically correct alto file. We say, well, have you looked at it?
So what we do with like our Transcribus outputs, because Transcribus provides bounding boxes, is we can do an overlay of the machine generated transcript on the image and then use that for helping do human transcription. And that's what we would do if we ever got Alto from any of these other systems. And then Ben has a Skunkworks project where we're going to try to merge like LLM transcriptions into
uncorrected Alto files, right? There's a gem we've released online that does that, and it works pretty well. We just need a source of boundary boxes.
Yeah.
Another question from the chat from Chris. Are Gemini gems usable in this workflow instead of or in addition to direct prompts?
I don't know what a Gemini gem is either. Yeah. We'll go research that.
Good question.
I don't know.
Maybe.
No is the answer, because we don't know what it is. And what we do now, we have a default prompt. And then for some projects, we have the ability to run with a customized prompt. I have to do it on the back end on the command line. But that's custom prompts, not Gemini gems, whatever those are.
Then a question from Densho. In terms of pricing, is it possible to bring your own API key model for Gemini?
Well, we're not charging people for Gemini API runs. Like, it's the same price whether you choose to use AI or not.
We're throwing that in for free.
And the reason we're doing that is because doing that support is a lot of work. Yes. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So no, we're not doing that.
I think that's all the questions we had from the chat. Eric did follow up with his question about sending Kraken output to Gemini in terms of the.
Interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, we should talk.
Yeah, we'd love to hear more about that. Yeah. Okay.
should
Share
we
our screens
jump
and
into
kind of our prompt development? Yeah.
Yes. Going back to that question. I think this is the right screen. Again, the Zoom controls are in the way. Okay, yeah, I'll go full screen on this, and we will go past some of the weirdness. Prompts. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
So we, like many people, probably started with Mark Humphrey's prompt that he refers to and has in his open source repository, and that was kind of our starting point. Let's see what I have here, and this is pretty much, I think,
this is definitely
Mark's
his
prompt. Yeah. And that's where we started. And what we ended up with, and we have some other examples of this earlier, but Gemini loves typesetting. It wants to produce a transcript that looks as close as possible to the original image. So like
it's producing this typographic facsimile with all of this white space. It's also, in the absence of other instructions, it's also producing Markdown. And it's a flavor of Markdown I'm not especially familiar with, but you can tell that it's trying to do these double tildes around things to indicate underlines or...
We don't know, because they're actually not in the text, which is kind of weird.
But look down at the bottom of the photo of Schmidt. We've got this, it's doing ASCII art to try to indicate this this box.
Right. Human transcribers would not do all of this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we actually support markup from the page. Like we have standard tags, we have buttons you can turn on to let your humans highlight a word and tag it as a date or a stamp or that it's unclear. So I'm like, let me just throw all of those into our prompt and see what happens. And we got this, which is not bad.
It's technically correct.
It's just that if we're going to have an AI tab that has the AI generated transcript, no one's going to want to read this, right? No one wants to read TEI ever.
Right.
This is not quite TEI.
It's the forest of angle brackets problem.
Yeah.
Right?
So I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I went back, and I think the only thing I really changed here was this unclear towards...
Oh, you also tried to left justify each line, because we're trying to get it to quit doing all this typesetting.
Right. And we got this,
and that's also kind of terrible.
It did exactly what we asked. I will tell it, say that. Also, what I found when I added this like unclear tag, that was enough to tell Gemini that we want markup.
That we want XML style markup.
XML style markup rather than like Markdown. And we really don't. So that was an interesting thing to kind of discover.
Suddenly it would go switch into XML mode. And it's like, well...
I was like, why is it doing this? And I'm like, oh, because I have this one tag in this prompt.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I don't know what we're showing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had to go back and forth. There are a handful of things that we have added. In particular, one of the things we've struggled with most...
our current prompt if you want to go back to a different tab.
Yeah,
like the one we ran this morning.
Oh yeah, okay. So this morning, so one of the things that we have added is Markdown tables. So this is Markdown tables are something that we use a lot in FromThePage to encode tabular data.
I would not say we use it a lot. It's the only way to encode tabular data, and no one likes doing it.
Yeah, with encode tabular data that shows up in other, more narrative, prosy documents, and it's just kind of a misery to do. I mean, people really don't like doing this, and Gemini is really good at it, and it has transformed which projects are popular among volunteers and which ones are deemed impossible, because suddenly the AI is doing all that horrible ASCII art business for people, and they can just focus on the text.
Well, and then it's not doing the horrible ASCII art, it's doing the horrible Markdown table structuring, which is hard, right?
Yeah.
And we actually have there's a blog post, I can go add it to the agenda when we get done. We did on like just how having this available is changing what gets transcribed already.
Yeah.
And like financial records it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. The other thing we had to add was this bit. Multi-column text should be transcribed in reading order. We saw it with that letter, but really we had to do that because we had some, was it early modern?
Yeah, so we had, yeah, they were early modern. Actually, it was late medieval. It was material that was in Middle English. It was Middle English poems, right? And of course, they're, a two-column medieval manuscript. And Gemini is thrilled to use markdown tables to transcribe that in a kind of typographic
Two-column
facsimile.
table. It had some faint lines underneath, some lines drawn underneath it, which I think is why it decided it was a table. It was pretty unusable.
So we've had to kind of back off on a lot of that. So there's this kind of fine tuning to say, all right, use this for some things but not others, and it's been a challenge. And that's, again, if we were running a different system that was 100% XML or only plain text or something, we'd be doing different things. But because we have the software affordances that we're writing around, that's kind of the fine tuning.
And we're aiming for a prompt that kind of works for everyone, because our, the archivists and librarians who run projects on FromThePage are not experts in prompt writing. And, I don't know, and we struggle. We have this kind of discussion all the time of how much do we let people play with prompts? Do we let them do their own prompts? Do we let them append to this prompt? I don't know. So,
yeah.
An interesting question from the chat. Have you tried archives that have both HTC and sketches, and how do you make sure that a faithful transcription of that information is available? For example, scientific notes that have both HTC and hand-drawn diagrams.
What does HTC
I don't think I know what the
stand
word.
for?
I guess HTR.
No?
No, maybe hand, I don't know.
Hand tribes.
Could you expand that, Youngchun?
Sorry, I'm just meant to say handwritten text. I think
Okay,
I
yeah.
Cool.
acronym.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. Do we have any examples?
Oh yeah,
of
the
sketches?
South Dakota one has a load of them. Actually, no, they don't have sketches.
It's all that kind of. Well, there are
Yeah,
some sketches. We could probably go find some
Yeah,
examples.
but we have not
hand.
seen that yet. What we would really like to do when we come into one of those is, the large language models are good at describing images, and being able to describe a diagram in a way that makes sense, I think would be very much within the capabilities of these tools.
I think what I would do in that scenario is a custom prompt, and you'd iterate a couple times to get to the point where we were all happy with it, and then we'd run it and see. So right.
Should we jump back into other? So we'll jump back into some of our other slides if there's.
But feel free to ask questions.
More questions are better. Okay, so what are the things that we've observed? As we mentioned, Gemini it loves doing its typesetting. We talked about that a little bit. Photo Schmidt. The reasoning is weird. It gets stuck sometime.
This is our favorite example. This is from the Civil War and Reconstruction Governors of Mississippi project.
It's at the top of a letter, June 12th, 1878, and the first letter in June is weird. And Gemini decides the first letter is actually Rhino. I don't know why an official communication with the governor of the state of Mississippi in 1878 would be about rhinoceroses, but Gemini sure it is. And it just gets stuck on Rhino. Clearly it's Rhino. Rhino is the leading contender. The Rhino hypothesis has gained significant traction. Rhino may be the correct answer.
And then it gets it right,
Yes.
which is June.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's weird in ways that are good, albeit a little bit creepy. This is an example that we ran into with the Queen's University Archives. We had a lot of trouble reading this, and we took a look at the AI transcription. And the interesting thing about this is that Gemini was actually able to draw on historical knowledge to say, oh, this looks like the Northwest Rebellion of 1885 that happens in Upper Canada. It's not something that I learned about in school, but it says, oh, well, the locations like Fish Creek and Batoche, and maybe there's the Battle of Batoche here, and right, it's using its historical knowledge to inform its transcription of the handwriting.
But the prompt we gave it was the one we showed you
Yeah,
3
it
minutes
does
ago.
not clue it in that this is from Canada at all.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. That is the kind of process you might find with a human who was more than just an expert at reading cursive, but actually knew
Local
about
context.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Some of the errors we've seen, we have seen a handful of examples of people, of Gemini just kind of stopping part of the way through. Haven't seen this recently, but this was definitely something we saw with early runs of 3.0. We have seen little misreadings. It saw this weird symbol that's actually kind of an idiosyncratic 19th century dollar sign as FF.
But a human would do that too. That's the thing.
Correct.
That is sort of what every time we see these mistakes, that's what I run through my head is, would a human transcriber make this mistake? Could a human transcriber make this mistake? Because we run a crowdsourcing platform and and all of our customers tolerate human level mistakes.
Yeah.
And maybe you have to review them or not, but
Similarly here, we have 2 references in these diary entries to what looks like Dolton, but is actually doctor, right? D-O-C-T-O-R, not D-O-L-T-O-N. Again, I don't feel like that's a hallucination. I feel like given what's written there, that is a human level error. Other weirdness we see, you run it multiple times.
on hard stuff. This is hard stuff, right? And again, 3 humans asked to transcribe the same hard stuff might
encode this differently, right? One time it decides the word is illegible, another time it decides the word is continued, another time it decides it's narrative. Again, that doesn't feel like a hallucination. Where we have seen things that look like hallucinations, this is the first time we have seen this, with one other exception in some Spanish colonial documents. But this is an example from a project that's dealing with city minute books and account books. And in this extremely long series of figures, we see next to this R66 that instead of writing 33-80833, it's transcribed that as 32-80833, right? So that is not a 2, right? That's clearly not a 2. And then the next number down, it transcribes that as 72 instead of 73. The next number after that is also wrong. And those 3 entries are just flat out wrong. And they're wrong in ways that don't look like transcription errors and are hard to spot. We're not sure what's going on here yet.
You know, I think we reran, I'm trying to remember which model this was.
I think it was 3.1.
Yeah, I think it was 3.1. What I really want to do is go back and run it with 3.0, which is not available. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe we'll have to add the Flash one and go from there.
Yeah. So those are some of the errors that we're seeing. Sarah talked about prompt iteration.
Yeah. The other question that often comes up is, hey, you're using the Gemini APIs, right? We are flat out using their commercial APIs. We're paying for them. And what that means is once you start paying for them, they don't use your content.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of interesting.
It comes up a lot. So yeah. Oh yeah, this was just a fun one.
Yeah, but we'll end on this one. This is an example of it doing the right thing pretty well, which was transcribing this image, which it did fairly correctly, but it also managed to transcribe these sections of newspaper
that were upside down
at the top of the image.
So yeah, just a fun one.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, that is all that we have prepared. So these are some great questions. Thank you all for coming, and we'd love to meet in the Netherlands to talk about modeling some of this stuff.
I also dropped into the agenda kind of beforehand links to 2 webinars we've done. The first one was just when we released Gemini 3, kind of our whole thought process and a lot more depth on some of these examples. And the other one is what we call responsible AI in FromThePage, which is all the features that we've tried to build in to make this transparent and tentative and optional.
Well, thanks everyone for attending today. Thanks, Ben and Sarah, for this great presentation. And then, as they mentioned, we do have the IIIF conference, Showcase and Conference, coming up June 1 through 4 in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, Leiden, and The Hague. Hopefully, we'll get to see some of you there. And you can even learn and talk more with your colleagues about IIIF AI and transcription.
Yeah,
Thanks, everybody.
yeah. And thanks, Martin.
Okay, well, we'll see you all
Yeah.
in a
All right.
few months.
Yeah.
All right.
Couple months.
Bye-bye.
Bye.